It's been 6.5 years I've been telling this man to let the toothbrush do the work. He thinks that he needs to basically saw his teeth every single morning. And I'm like, I cannot tell you enough. Moving in with your partner is the best thing. It really is. Overall, I can tell you, 4.5 years in, a lifetime to go. So far, it's been a 10 out of 10 experience. And like I said in the last episode or the episode before, probably both episodes, and any episode from here on out, should a 26-year-old be giving you advice on moving with your partner? I'm not sure. Maybe. Do you want to take this advice? Take it with a grain of salt if you want. I think that maybe a woman who's been in a 40-year long plus marriage, who's had kids and all the different things, can probably come on here and give you maybe better advice. But I will tell you guys, we're going to get real. We're going to get very truthful, and we're going to go through the pros and the differences, I guess I should say, and the learning curves of living with your partner. Now, I'm going to speak on behalf of living with a man because I live with my man. Okay. We moved in right after I graduated college. Literally, I graduated college, and a few weeks later, we ended up moving in because Nash was still in Reno going to school, getting his degree in fire suppression and fire technology. And all the stars were kind of aligning. We ran it by our parents, and they're like, yeah, we think it's a great idea. So it's been about 4.5, 4 years. I don't know. It's been a long time. And then we've been together for going on 6.5 years soon. So yeah, I would say that we've got some tea to spill about what it's like to move in with your partner. And I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys. And honestly, I think you guys probably want Nash on today's episode for sure. And I wish that he could be on. He's working today, but I did ask him to give me some things that he would want said on this podcast. So don't worry, Nash's word will be said. But outside of cultural and religious beliefs, which I totally am supportive of people who are like, nope, I'm not moving in before I get married. That's just what I believe in. Totally understand. I'm behind you on that, and I totally get it. Outside of that, I cannot explain enough how important I personally think it is to move in with your partner prior to getting married. If marriage is in the books for you, if you want to be legally bound to somebody, if that is something that you want to do, move in with them. Move in with them. You guys, what are men? What are men? Let me tell you, this morning, all of a sudden, I'm getting ready. I'm hop out of bed. I'm opening up the curtains. I actually vlogged this. And I hear what sounds like a jackhammer in the bathroom. No, that's just my man brushing his teeth. Why do they do that? It's been 6.5 years I've been telling this man to let the toothbrush do the work. I bought the nice ass Sonicare toothbrushes, and my bristles are like this. His are like this always. Why? Because he thinks that he needs to basically saw his teeth every single morning. And I'm like, I cannot tell you enough. Let the toothbrush do the work for you. You just need to hold it, little tiny circles, and you're good to go. Why does he do that? Why does he continue to do that? Why is living with a man sometimes it's honestly just a what the fuck all the time? Every single day, I'm WTFing in some way, shape, or form. And I think I asked some of you guys, or I asked on the podcast last week or 2 weeks ago, if living with a brother, because I've only had an older sister, so the only man I've lived with is my dad, which is obviously a very different experience. If living with a brother and having a brother makes it easier or not as easy to live with your man. And some of you replied and you were like, I don't even want to live with my man after living with my brother. And I'm like, okay, so all men are the same. All of them are the same. And it is a big adjustment. It's a humongous adjustment to live with your partner because for the most part, I'm just going to assume you guys are living in your own spaces, whether that's with your parents or in your own apartment or home or townhome or wherever you're at. You're in your own space and they're in their own space. And you would think this is what happened with Nash and I. I was always over at his place sleeping over, or he was always at my place sleeping over all the time. When you live near them, you're pretty much with each other all the time, or you're at least ending up at their house multiple days a week. So you would think like, oh, it's just going to be like you get to play house at his house, then you get to play house at your place. And it's like this fun thing. And you're like, oh, moving in together is going to be easy breezy, beautiful cover girl. It's going to be amazing. Can't wait. Totally different. It's totally different in so many good ways and in so many different ways. There's a lot of pros and there's a lot of adjustments. I wouldn't say that there's any cons. There's just constant adjustments and learning curves. So, yeah, that's one thing I will say. If you live separately, but you live near each other and you're constantly like sleeping at each other's places and hanging out and this, that, the other, and maybe you spend a weekend at his place and you think that's how it's going to be, it's totally different because you still get to go back home to your space. I'm going to tell you right now, enjoy your space while you have it, girl. Enjoy your space while you have it because being able to go back home, your girly pop coated home, or your space that you have that's sacred to you, that's untouched by a man, and it's not shared by a man, it's just your little form of girlhood. It's like your little Barbie dream house, right? You don't really get that anymore. But there are things that you can do that I suggest that you do when you move in with your partner. You create spaces. We'll get into the advice. All right. I'm already getting into it. But yeah, it is a big adjustment. And I will say that Nash and I went into it with zero plan. We didn't have anything planned out at all. There was no sit down conversation where I was like, okay, this is who's going to do chores. This is the budgeting. This is my space. This is your space. This is that. We were we were so young, 21. When do you graduate college? 22? Yeah, 22 years old. Both of us, so young, so in love. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we're moving in. It felt kind of like a little dream, a little fairy tale. I'm like, nothing can go wrong. This is so exciting. We get to shop. We went ham at Walmart in their home section. I love Walmart's home section. And we went ham there and we would filled our little apartment that we got. It was a brand new apartment. Nobody had moved in before. And it was so exciting. And I was like, oh my gosh, dream come true. And then we started living together. And at first it's fun because it's like you're having a sleepover with your best friend every night. And that still is true to this day. Living with your partner is like a sleepover with your bestie every single night. And genuinely nothing beats it. But then you realize, okay, we've got to build our own routine. We've got to start a new routine because you're used to either waking up at his place or your place where you have your own routine or you just are kind of sleeping in at his place. And it's just this whole adjustment period. And Nash and I, yeah, we didn't plan at all. And I totally suggest that you plan prior to moving in with, which I have to say, now that I'm 26 and I've got a 26-year-old brain, there are so many things that I would have done differently. So many. I would have had a full sit down discussion and probably written out like a whole dissertation on what the plan is when we move in, who's doing what the budget split is, what all this blah, 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 and how we are going to grow with that. But honestly, hindsight's 2020, but also we were so young and it was kind of fun. It was like this fun little thing, but it was a big adjustment. It was a big adjustment when you guys, I actually feel my heart like increasing when I share this. It was a big adjustment when I opened up the dishwasher, when I was like, oh, will you fill the dishwasher? He said, yep, I got it. I'll do the dishes. And I open it up and the bowls and the cups are facing up. And when I pull it open, it feels so heavy. And all of a sudden there's water that splashes everywhere because the cups and the bowls are loaded upright. That was about, I want to say like 2 weeks into us living together. And I sat there and I was like, there's no way. Is it April Fool's? This must be a sick joke. This man did not just fill this dishwasher like that. Okay. And there's still moments. And obviously I told him, I was like, what? Have you never loaded a dishwasher? Like, what do you mean what do you mean you just did this, Nash? Like, explain. And he's like, oh yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm like, okay, that's not going to cut it for me right now, babe. Like, what is going on? But there's still moments like that to this day. We're 26 now. Like I said, 4 years later that he does that. I'm like, compromise. Honestly, I would say the two biggest things with moving in with your partner is compromise and communication. I would say communication is at the forefront, which of course, communication is foundational. And I have to say that communication has to be the number one thing in a relationship, in any situation, in anything that you talk about in regard to a relationship. Communication is at the forefront. It is always, always number one. So, communication is essential when it comes to moving in, and also compromise, knowing that there is a big adjustment to living with a man, to living with your man, and figuring out what is going to be best for you two. So I wrote out a list of tips that I have that I'm going to go over with you guys before I just go on this whole ramble. But if you are moving in with your partner, so exciting. It's literally a sleepover with your best friend. I love it. It's so fun, but there's a lot there's a lot of adjustments, let me tell you. So this is what I would suggest you do prior to moving in with your partner. Number 1, like I said, communication is the foundation of every relationship. Communicating 24/7. You will be nonstop communicating with your partner when you live with them. You would think that when you live apart, you're constantly having to communicate through the phone and having to talk to them and being like, what's up? What's going on? It actually, I think, heightens when you live together. Constant communication in all different areas, obviously, like asking how they are, asking how their day went, but also communicating household things when it comes to bills, when it comes to chores, when it comes to things that need to be done around the house, grocery shopping, all the different things. Constant communication. Figure out budget before. Who's going to split what? Who's going to take the cost of certain bills and groceries and all the things? Is it going to be one person that does it all? Is it going to be one person that's covering rent and maybe the other person picks up the bills and groceries? Is it going to be a 50-50 split down the way? Is it going to be based on who makes more money and you kind of base the split off of that? That's really important. Having an open communication about your finances, I think, is so important. Nash and I started that at the very beginning. We're really open about our finances. Money is not something that is hidden in our relationship by any means. We're constantly talking about finances in a healthy way, checking in with each other, making sure that things are going smoothly. And I'll tell you that Nash and I split things. We split things at first. I was trying to make it with my business, so I was struggling at first. He was still in school and his parents were still helping him out, which we're super, super grateful for. And once I started to kind of pick up with my business, things kind of weaned off. And then we're like, okay, now it's our money. Let's look at it as if it's our money. But at a certain point, one of us was making more. So we split based off of that because we felt like that was fair. And then it came to a part in our relationship where, okay, so first it was like 50-50. Then one of us was making more than the other. So that started to split unevenly, but in a way that was fair for the both of us, that we felt fair. And now we've come to a point in our relationship. I mean, come on, girls, I got a ring on it. Okay. We've come to a point in our relationship where now it's our money. I'm like, okay, this is like, we're openly talking about our finances because it's our finances. Like, we're locked in, babe. Like, this is you and me. We're building our empire. We're building, our lives here. And I think that's the natural progression of when you live together and when it becomes more serious, because living with somebody, like I said, with your partner is going to make or break your relationship. And you're hopeful, obviously, if you're living with them, you're hopeful that down the line that things will start to come together when it comes to budgeting and when it comes to finances. But definitely at first, being clear on who's covering what in a way that's not awkward, but understand that things may change. And constantly talking about it, I think, is important. Maybe not constantly, but I think checking in with one another on that, maybe every couple months. You check in and be like, hey, how do you feel like with when you're covering the rent and I'm doing the bills? Do you still feel like that's fair? How are you feeling with that? And continue to talk about it. It shouldn't be an awkward conversation. It shouldn't be something that's hidden. And it should be something that is, I think, talked about relatively regularly, and understand that it may change. Like with Nash and I, it's totally changed over that past couple years, which I think is the natural progression of when you're dating somebody and when you're with somebody and it becomes more serious. Talk about finances and that kind of chat. Definitely, I think that's pretty normal that changes. But get it out there first. Don't have it be hidden, and definitely make sure that it is fair for what you two believe is fair. The next thing I would suggest is figure out who's going to do what chores around the house, but understand that may change. Okay. So I will say at first, and still majority of the time, I'm doing a lot of the cleaning up and picking up and the laundry and everything. And at first, I did Nationized laundry. Now it's changed. He does his own laundry and I do my own laundry, which you guys might think that's crazy. It's what works best for us. We were getting too many things confused. The laundry days became too much. Laundry decided like was piling up. So I thought, let me get us our each individual 3 split laundry baskets, the darks, the whites, and the colors. Let's do our own laundry. Let's see how it works. And he's like, I'm totally down with that. No problem. And so we ended up doing that and making that change, and it actually has worked great for us. Now, when we have kids, is it going to change? Yes. So different chores around the house. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not touching the garbage. No, unless if Nash is working night shift or he's working like a 24, 48-hour shift or whatever, I'm not touching that garbage. And it's garbage day. I'm not laying a finger on it. If the garbage needs to go out, my man is doing that because I don't like it. Okay. And he knows that. And we're good with that. That's something that has been from day one. And it still is right now. I'll empty the garbages around the house. But other than that, he's taking the trash out. Like I said, at first, I do a majority of the cleaning and I still do. But now Nash has actually felt like he's wanted to participate more in the cleaning. And depending on the days that we've had, it's kind of up in the air on who wants to do the cleaning. If I have extra time and I'm the one that's home and he's maybe worked like 3 shifts in a row or 3 days in a row, and I'm going to keep the house clean for when he comes home. But if, we're together and he's got 3 or 4 days off, his schedule is all over the place. And maybe one of the days he's like, I got it. I'm going to clean the kitchen. I've got the whole downstairs today. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to let you do that. Not a problem. And sometimes I went through a phase where, like, kind of, I told you guys, with the cooking. It's still with the both of us, and it depends on who's home and who's not home. He loves cooking. He's a little freaky. He's got a little thing for feeding me. I don't know what it is. No, I'm kidding. Not really. I don't know. But he likes to make sure that I'm fed all the time. And he loves the act of cooking for me. It's a love language that we have. I like to be fed by him. He likes to feed me. You guys are probably like, oh, okay, you freaks. Whatever, no kink shaming here. But so he likes to do a lot of the cooking now, which I kind of went through a little crisis in my head. I'm like, God, I feel like I should be doing the cooking. Like, my mom's the cook in the house. She loves to cook. She's an amazing cook. She's an amazing baker. She does it all. Anything you're like, hey, can you make this crazy dish? She'll do it and she'll do it amazingly. So sometimes I feel like, okay, I need to take on that burden, which I'm wanting to challenge myself and try new recipes and explore with cooking. That's something that I want to do on my own. But Nash likes to do it. So it's like that changed over time. I used to be majority of the time the one that cooked very basic meals. We both, when we moved in, we're college students basically at the time. I did not really know what to cook or how to cook very well. I was still scared of like cooking ground chicken or ground beef or ground turkey. I didn't even know how to do it. So I looked it up one day and I realized, oh my God, it's like the easiest thing ever. YouTube is great for that. But it's one of those things that you're just continuously learning together and understanding that even if you have dedicated chores around the house or who does what, compromise. It may change. And also, a day that you thought that that you're usually on schedule of cooking and cleaning and whatever, if it falls short, I think that, which this is something that Nash said, which I'll tell you guys, having your man step in during that time is important, and communicating that if that's what you like. Unless if you have a relationship, every relationship is different, where like that's solely your job. It fulfills you, it fulfills him when you do that for the both of you. There's so many different variables, but long story short, figure out the chores, figure out who's going to do what with the main things. And outside of that, understand that compromise and communication is important. It's going to change over the years. There's going to be certain periods of time where you're doing all the cooking and all the cleaning. And maybe there's certain periods of time where things have shifted and you're doing a lot of the cooking and cleaning still, but there's a lot of times where your man is stepping up and he's helping out with that and he's taking over on that and he's enjoying it and you're enjoying it and you're communicating through that and you're good to go. The next thing I would suggest is setting healthy boundaries around the home and within your relationship in regard to personal space and personal time. Remember that little Barbie dream house that I said you'll never have again? I was only slightly joking, okay? Creating, if you have the opportunity to, creating little spaces around the home that are just for you and just for him. are so important. I'm not talking about a whole room. If you could have a whole room to yourself, girl, do it. Okay. I'm pretty sure all of us here that are listening and watching this would love just like, hold on, everybody close your eyes. Unless if you're driving, don't do that. Okay. Here we are. Picture this super rusticy, cutesy, crown molding, moody room, maybe like a dark hunter green, or even like, dare I say, a very tasteful dark brown on the walls, very moody vibes. You've got a fireplace crackling. You've got a whole wall full of books. You've got these comfy ash chairs or a comfy couch, and you're able to sit in there with a little glass of wine or a little, bubbly drink and read your book and have your own space where nobody is disturbing you. One can dream. One can dream. It doesn't have to be that extravagant. Would we all love that? Yes. But even just your side of the sink, okay? Just your little corner of the sink, underneath the sink and the drawers that are designated to you. Make that your own. Go off with the organization, girly. Get some Amazon, clear acrylic shelves and make it all cute as shit and throw in a fake plant or a real plant. Make that your little version of your Barbie dream house, okay? Or if you have a space like a corner where you can keep like your little books and a plant and some things, maybe you have coloring books or paint or whatever it is that you like to do, little tiny spaces around the home that are just for you, really, that are just for you. So important. And also same thing for them, which you're going to be like, so what is Nash's space around the home? Well, let me tell you, in his closet, which to be fair, he's got a very nice walk-in closet. He has it in the one of the guest bedrooms. And I wish that I could show you guys this. He's got like a whole Star Wars shrine. It's like a Star Wars baseball shrine. You would think that it's like somebody from Star Wars has passed and he's like using it as like memorabilia or something. But he's got posters and he's got it all decked out because I've got him so much Star Wars stuff over the past couple years and all of his baseball stuff. So things that's really important to him, some stuff from his grandfather, from like firefighting hats and an old battalion chief cap and everything. That's like his space that makes him happy. And he's totally okay with having it in the closet. And I'm okay with having it in the closet too. I'm hoping in our next place that like I'm able to match things, maybe getting certain, like I saw on Facebook Marketplace, which honestly, taking a gander on Facebook Marketplace will definitely boost the serotonin. There's so many couches for sale, at least in the Nashville area. In Reno, there was nothing good on Facebook Marketplace, but in Nashville, it's absolutely popping. But there's these really cool vintage like golf pictures that are like paintings or whatever. And I'm like, okay, that would be fun because Nash likes golf. But anyways, certain things around the home and also dedicating time to yourself when you move in with your partner, because when you move in you're going to be attached at the hip, and honestly you're going to spend a lot of time together, and it's going to be something that is so fun at first because you think you're playing house, but then you're like, this is actually real life house, kind of, maybe minus the kids if you don't have any kids, but this is it, right? This is it. And it becomes very real very quickly. And it's something that it's really easy to just hang out with each other and only be with each other and kind of go through a phase of maybe neglecting your friends or your family. You're not reaching out to as many people. Like, you don't really realize it sometimes when you initially move in with your partner, unless if you just are naturally a person who needs to hang out with other people or is a social butterfly. I am not a huge social butterfly, like at heart, I would say. I have to be forced out of the house sometimes. I go through phases where I'm like, yes, let's go out, but the phases that I want to stay in are a lot longer, and it's easy. It's easy to hang out with them all the time, and it's like fun. So you're like, this is perfect. I don't need to hang out with anybody else. But I'm going to tell you right now, as somebody who went through that, I don't suggest doing it. Okay. Continue to find hobbies to do by yourself. Like I've always brought up the 3-path analogy. This rings so, so true, and even more true when you move in with your partner. Making sure that you are not only having spaces around the house that are just your little happiness Barbie land corners, and they have their happiness Star Wars boyhood corners, but also creating personal time for yourself, doing things by yourself and for yourself, and making sure that your partner is doing things by themselves and for themselves as well, while you're also making sure that you're pouring in time and energy into each other, quality time and energy, because drum roll please, you will experience a roommate phase. You will absolutely experience a roommate phase. And anybody who's lived with their partner for longer than a couple years, if they have ever said that, yeah, I've never been through a roommate phase, like we're just like so perfect. Liar. You are a liar. Okay. I don't know if you guys watch, what was it, season 5 of Love Island UK? No, it was like season 8. Maybe, I don't know, Davide and Ekansu. I don't know if you remember when they had their blow up and Davide goes, "You are a liar," Italian guy. So funny. Okay, so anytime that's just an inside joke that you guys are now in on. Anytime I say liar, I always say you liar. Okay, side note, but they are liars for sure, because you can and probably will experience a roommate phase. I think that's pretty natural. And there's multiple roommate phases that you will experience, and they all look a little different. Nash and I have experienced a lot of roommate phases, a lot. Okay. And I'm like, buddy, we need to stop acting like bros. Like, I love burping and farting in front of you, and I love when we just hang out and we eat and we're vegging out. I love those times, but we've got to pull it back a little bit. We've got to ring it back. Let's remember that we're in love, that we're sexy, and we love each other. Let's practice being intimate. Let's practice what intimacy looks like for us. Let's do little intimate things for each other. Remember, intimacy, we know now, is not just physical. It's not just in between the sheets. It's not. Intimacy is so much more than that. And sometimes you have to communicate and talk about it and be like, okay, whoa, I feel like we're broing it out a little bit too much. Let's ring it back. It's okay though. Like, again, life happens, things happen, things change, and it will directly affect you, which directly affects your living situation. And your living situation, if it's with your partner, it's going to affect your relationship then. And that's just how it happens. But just know that, like, it's okay. It doesn't mean you don't love each other. It doesn't mean that you guys aren't meant for each other. It doesn't mean that you guys will never, hang out between the sheets ever again, or you're destined for failure. That's just a part of relationships, and that's a part of life. You guys know I'm going to be real and honest with you all the time. It's not always sunshine and rainbows, and it's not always like you're playing house and it's the best thing ever. There are times where you'll go through things in your personal life which will affect your living situation again, which will affect your relationship when you're living with your partner. Or maybe you guys just aren't on the same page when you're living with each other. That will then cause issues that can definitely lead to a different kind of a roommate phase, where it's like you guys are kind of riffing a little bit and you're like, roommate phase, you're not connecting on that level. Or maybe you're broing it out too much and you're burping and farting around each other too much, and that's a different kind of roommate level. There's a lot of different phases of roommate eras that you'll go through, and it may be long, it may be short. Each one is going to be different, but just know that, like, it's okay. It's totally natural and normal to happen, to go through a roommate phase. And working into a roommate phase happens overnight, girl. You slip right into it. But working out of it, it takes time. It takes time to work out of it. It takes effort on both parts. It just takes effort for both of you guys to be on the same page of actively putting an effort to get out of the roommate phase, whatever that may be. Whether that's having a discussion of the issues that you guys are having, which is causing your roommate phase, or whether it's like, okay, we need to like spice it up a little bit and not do what we're doing right now. Like, let's go for a hike, then order some sushi and have a glass of wine, or grab a bottle of wine, dim the lights, play some music, and have like a little date night or whatever. It could just take that. It could literally just take that, you guys. It doesn't have to be complicated. Relationships shouldn't be super, super complicated. They should be simple. They're not easy. I always say this, relationships are far from easy, but they should be simple. You guys handle things together, you communicate through it, and that's how you get through it. The only way you're going to get through any of these situations is through communication and also compromise. Now, for any of my type A baddies out there, if you want to do a shared calendar, love that idea. Nash is not a calendar kind of guy. He's just I'll tell you how we actually do our version of shared calendar. But if you guys are type A baddies, do a shared calendar. It's amazing. It's convenient. It keeps you on track. I think once we have kids, absolutely we'll need a shared calendar because there's going to be like so many other things on the schedule. But what Nash and I do is we're constantly every night and every morning communicating our schedules to each other. So obviously when he comes home from work or we're settled down in the evening, we'll chat about our day, yada yada. And then I'll be like, "What's your plan for tomorrow?" He's like, "Okay, I've got training from this to that time. I've got, a haircut at this time and then I've got work at this time, whatever that may be." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." And then he's like, "What's your schedule like?" I'm like, "I've got this, that, and the other." And he's like, "Okay, cool." So I was like, "Okay, so we'll probably just update each other later in the day tomorrow." And he's like, "Yep, that sounds good." Whatever. We run it over. Sounds good. And then in the morning, we kind of like double check with each other. And I'm like, "Okay, you've got this, that, and the other." He's like, "Yep." And you've got this, that, and the other. And I'm like, "Yep." And I'm like, "Okay, good." So we kind of go day by day for the both of us. When there's big things, I put it into my calendar. I'm a calendar girly, so I'll definitely put things into my calendar, always running it by there. But outside of that, with Nash, with the way that he works, because he's not a calendar guy, just the constant communication of our schedule, it works great. We've never had any major hiccups. It's awesome and it works great for us. Unless, you can do a shared calendar. We tried that and it just didn't work, and that's okay. Compromise, communication, and compromise. Now, the last thing that I can think of, I'll probably go on a million different rants though, is don't be afraid to plan ahead. Talk about the future. Plan it. Plan the future. If you have loose plans, understand that things can always change. But I think that planning ahead while just also trying to live in the moment at the same time, it's not easy to do that, honestly, because I feel like as a generation, we're constantly not feeling settled. I don't think anybody feels settled right now, but we're constantly trying to plan ahead and think for the future and want bigger and better and more and more and more without appreciating where we're at in the moment and how much we've accomplished and like turn around and look back and be like, "Oh, damn, like I'm here. Let me celebrate that." We're always just like thinking in the future. That's at least me. I'm chronically thinking and living in the future and trying to chase more and more instead of being present in the moment. I really struggle with that. I'm trying to be more mindful. It's my word of the year, as you guys know. I have been definitely this year more than I have in the past. Just with this couple months in the new year, I have more than in years past for sure. But don't be afraid to like plan ahead. Okay. So, yes, you move in together and you live together, and that's great. But talk about the future. If you guys don't already have all your kids' names planned out already, you don't need to do that necessarily. But don't be afraid to plan ahead and be like, "Okay, this lease is a year. Are we thinking of staying here still? Do we want to move to another apartment? Do we want to move into a townhome or a home? Do we want to buy a home? Do we want to move to a new location? How are we feeling?" Just talking about that stuff is really important. So there's not any shocks that come up or surprises that come up if there is a change of plans, knowing that things can happen, or depending on what career that you guys are both in, if there's changes that can happen there, like constant communication when it comes to that and planning ahead, I think is really important because it's already March. Happy March. Happy March. I should have started the episode off with that because what? You're telling me that the new year was 3 months ago. Hmm. How does that make us feel? Not good, let me tell you that. Okay, let me get into what Nash said. I asked him, I said, "I'm talking about what it's like to move in with your partner. What are some suggestions that you have?" And this is what he said. He said, and I quote, "Guys have to be ready to make adjustments in a good way because you're going to pick up on a ton of tendencies from your woman that you'd never pick up before, like cleaning habits, eating habits, routines, etc." So what he's saying basically is like, guys, get ready to adjust. Boyhood, this is boyhood and girlhood, okay? Yeah, get ready to adjust because I mean, honestly, I guess I'm Uno reversing the situation. Let me put my toe in a man's shoes, which honestly scares me. But I can imagine that the adjustment for a boy living with a woman is also something that you're just like, okay. I feel like it's very different where we're kind of WTFing all the time. And we're like, how do you just like not know this already or not think of this already inherently? We as women, I know for a fact, we just always read between the lines. We're always looking behind our back. We're always looking at full spectrum things. We're always just thinking and doing the most. That's just how our brains work. You want to know why the research is now saying that women need more sleep? Is because we use our brains more than men. Fact. That's a fact. The research is proving it. Okay. But I think with men, what Nash is saying is just kind of like, guys, you're gonna have to make adjustments. You're gonna have to make adjustments to living with your woman, but they're not gonna be all bad. Just like embrace it. And that's kind of what he was saying this morning. He was like, if I had any advice for guys, it's just to embrace living with a woman and living with your woman and listen to them and help them out when they need help and support them when they need to be supported because like they say, a happy wife is a happy life, and having that balance is important. And also, for the women to make sure that you're supporting the man. But guys, you got to get ready to make some adjustments in good ways. New eating routines, new habits, new all these different things. Because again, we're doing the most as women, and I think men, when they realize that, they're like, "Whoa, this is very different, very different." The next thing that he said is communicate as a team. He personally doesn't believe that household things are just on the lady. It's a team effort to keep your house in order, which is something that I appreciate. Now, not everybody is going to agree with that, and that's totally okay. Every relationship is so different. The dynamic is going to be different. The responsibilities are going to be different, and they might only be different for periods of time, and maybe things change. But where Nash and I are at right now, he personally doesn't believe that all of the household things fall onto me, and he loves to make an effort in cooking and cleaning and doing his laundry and all the different things, and I do my part, and it seems to work well for us. So I do appreciate that he said that. He also said you will teeter totter. Some weeks it will be 70-30, some weeks it'll be 50-50. You just kind of have to adjust, and I definitely agree with that. It is, and that's kind of a relationship, is that you always want to be giving your partner 100% in many ways, but sometimes when it comes to when you live with your partner and certain household things, it's going to teeter totter and it's going to change, like I said, and that's okay. Just communicating through that is what's most important. The next thing he said is be excited to try new things together and new routines. You will find things you like to do together, things that you like to do alone, and that she likes to do alone. So, yeah, kind of what I was saying with that three path analogy, which let me tell you, Nash and I went into a very, very long roommate phase when we first moved in. It was obviously super great. We were on a high, we were honeymooning. It was so fun. And then we got very comfortable with each other, which is ideally what you want at the end of the day. I'd rather be way too comfortable with my man than uncomfortable in any way, shape, or form, even slightly uncomfortable. So we went through that where we were way too comfortable. And I was like, okay, we've got to separate ourselves a little bit, and we've got to like be a little intimate. Like we're still dating each other. Like we still got to be romantic and put in that effort. And it's really easy to stop putting in effort in ways that you want to feel loved. It's easy for a man to stop putting in effort in a way that makes you feel loved, and vice versa. And that's kind of, I think, where sometimes some of the issues arise and where some of the roommate tendencies can come in is when you like to feel loved through maybe gift giving. And maybe when, like, or acts of service, I think gift giving is one of them, acts of service or whatever. When your man does stuff for you, or he gets you gifts or he gets you flowers or whatever, maybe it was easier for him to do that when you guys lived apart, because it's like every time he had hung out with you, he had to go to you. So he's like, I'm gonna stop at the store and always bring her some flowers, or always bring her a little drink, or always bring her something. And then when you move in, he's coming home to you, and maybe he just isn't doing that as much, and you're like, oh, like that kind of makes me sad. Communicate through that. Like it totally happens. It's easy for it to kind of just like fall by the wayside, but making sure that you're communicating the way that you still like to feel loved, which will change. I'll tell you that. It'll change when you move in, the way that you give and receive love, and the way that your partner gives and receives love. And remember, I'm always going to say this, just because they're not giving you love in the way that you like to receive it doesn't mean that they don't love you. You just have to let them know, and you have to communicate that and be like, remember when you used to do this? Like, I actually still really love that and would love to have that happen. Like when you used to get me flowers, like once every, couple dates or something. I would love to still receive that. I know that we live together and there's been an adjustment, but I would love that. And some people may sit here and listen to this and be like, so no, like he should already know that. And that's fine. If that's what you believe, I totally get it. You have a right to believe what you believe and a right to expect certain things from your partner. And as long as you're communicating that, then that's all that matters. But yeah, I think in my case, I think communicating that those things are very important. I will say the last thing that he said is it's the start of getting ready to take care of a family, so get excited, which I think is really cute. And I think it's a great kind of outro to this whole episode is it is exciting. It's exciting. It's fun. It's having a sleepover with your best friend every day. There's a huge learning curve when you're living with your partner. And, it's even with things like certain meals. Like now, Nash and I have go to meals that we cook weekly, no matter what, that both of us know how to make. It's things like that where at first, of course, we didn't know that. We did not know even barely how to cook. And Nash didn't start grilling and beginning his grill master journey until a couple years in. And he grills all the time now, which is like so helpful and so amazing. And it's things like that that you start to build, but understand that it's a learning curve and it takes time to adjust and it's okay. And not every day is going to be sunshine and roses, and not every day is going to be the most romantic thing ever with your partner. And it's not going to be like this. I don't know. I don't want to give you an unrealistic expectation, but it is a beautiful thing to be able to live with somebody that you love and start to create a little life for yourselves and start to get to know each other. Like, I'll tell you, every single day, every week, every month, every year, I am learning still something new about Nash. He's learning something new about me, and we're continuing to grow and learn in our relationship. And we wouldn't be able to do that if we didn't live together. And I personally, prior to getting any kind of married, which we are not legally married yet, but prior to that, I am so grateful that we have lived together for as long as we have to be able to work through that. And I'll tell you, it took like 2 years to really get settled in with him and really feel like, okay, we're doing this. We're no longer kids. We're not, in college. We're in the real world. And we've obviously lived with each other. We've not only have we been together through very pivotal moments like your 20s, my god, oh my god, when is it gonna stop? Like, when is it gonna stop? It's not gonna stop. It's not gonna stop. Your 20s are fucking crazy. They're crazy, like insane. So we've been together through crazy periods of our lives, and we've also lived together through very pivotal and crazy points of our lives. And I'm very grateful for that. It's been far from easy. It's been far from easy. It's been difficult at times. We've gone through some gnarly roommate phases that we've had to get through, but it was never a doubt that things wouldn't work out. And there never has been a doubt, at least in Nash and I's relationship, where it felt like if we were struggling that we were going to ever call it quits. It's never brought up on the table. We have that rule in our relationship where we never threaten breakup. We'll never threaten divorce. We'll never threaten that. It's not a card that we'll ever pull because that's not something that we believe in the aspect of like, we don't believe in just throwing that card out just to throw it out, just to send a dig to your partner. In an argument, if things are getting heated, like throwing that card out is not something that we do because it's just like not fair, right? It's not an excuse. It's just a cop out. Like it's not a fun or nice thing to say by any means, but it's just one of those things that just I don't know. I don't even know where I'm going with this rant. I'm starting to burn out, you guys. The fuses are it's like busting in my brain, but overall, it is the best thing ever. I wouldn't say that there's really any cons. It's just continuous learning lessons. You'll learn a lot about yourself. You'll learn a lot about your partner. You'll continue to grow with your relationship. And I 10 out of 10 suggest it. I'm so glad that we've been doing this for this long, and I'll continue to give advice. Hopefully, this was helpful, and hopefully you guys felt like this was something that, maybe if you live with your partner and you're maybe struggling, you're going through a roommate phase and you feel like you're the only couple that's going through a roommate phase, I'm going to tell you right now, you are not. Cut that shit out right now. You are not. Anything that you're feeling right now, you're not alone in experiencing that by any means. And you may see certain relationships or things online or read in books or see in movies, all of these perfectly depicted relationships. And even when people come online and they give advice, you may feel like, oh my God, but it still seems like they're so perfect. Nobody's perfect. No single individual is perfect. No relationship is perfect. No family is perfect. There will be continuous learning lessons and a lot of growth. And you're just going to continue to grow. And it's a really exciting thing. It's so exciting. And I totally suggest it. It's the best thing ever. But if you could divvy up some things before, start discussions prior to moving in, kind of budgeting, chores, all of that stuff. I totally recommend that. Nash and I did not do that. And I had to learn the hard way through opening up the fucking dishwasher with all the bowls and cups full of water. Okay? Get that shit figured out before you almost light your man on fire. I was literally so livid. It wasn't even, I was mad, don't get me wrong, but I just stood there dumbfounded. I'm like, there's no way. There's no way that you did that. I still, to this day, when I bring it up, he's like, oh, okay. I'm like, no, Nash, like, that's crazy that you did that. I'm telling everybody. You best believe I'm blasting that shit so everybody knows it. But yeah, anyways, it's the best thing ever. Hopefully this was good advice. I think that Nash needs to come back on the pod soon. So if you guys would like to see him on the pod, let me know. I'm feeling like maybe we could do a Q&A or maybe cover a specific topic or something, because I feel like he's just like been given some really good advice recently. And I'm like, okay, maybe I'll interview you again. Maybe I'll get you on the pod. But I appreciate you guys hanging around today and listening to the pod. If you listen to it on Spotify or Apple, on Spotify, you can leave comments now. I'd love for you guys to leave comments. It's super exciting. You can leave a review of my whole podcast on Apple Podcasts, or you can watch this on YouTube, which is really exciting. But I appreciate you guys and all the support, always sharing my podcast, being here for this journey. And hopefully this was a helpful episode. But I love you guys so much, and I will talk to you soon.